A&E, intensive care, cancer wards. Tens of thousands of nurses in England will stop work for 48 hours next month in a significant escalation of strike action.
They're immense pressure looking after their patients. They're under immense pressure trying to pay their bills.
The question, perhaps, are we getting to the point where people may die because this dispute over pay and conditions has not been settled? And to load up the gloomy news, rail workers will strike again in March too. Also, on News at 10 tonight. Now the police force investigating Nicola Bulley's disappearance refers itself to the police watchdog. If you send them, we'll shoot them down, Joe Biden's threat to China over spy balloons. Is a deal on the vexed issue of the Northern Ireland Protocol finally in sight? The Prime Minister is in Belfast tonight. So violent it made a new valley. John has some startling new images from the earthquake zone, and the story of the boy, the mole, and the movie that might win an Oscar.
I'm so grateful, but I'm still just scruffy Charlie with a dog.
This is ITV News at 10 with Tom Bradby.
Good evening. The pay dispute between nurses in England and the UK government has been heated for weeks now. But this evening, the nurses' union, the RCN, raised the temperature to a new level. For the first time, strike action in England will include staff working in cancer care, intensive care and in A&E. The union says the government is refusing to negotiate. And this new level of pain for the health service will start on the 1st of March, in just less than 2 weeks. But in another escalation, it won't just last for 12 hours of the day either, but 48, day and night. It will affect more hospitals than previous strikes, and this time there will be no locally agreed deals to exempt certain nursing staff. Instead, members of other unions and staff from different medical disciplines will probably have to fill any essential gaps.
For the past 3 months, nurses have taken to the picket line in their battle over pay. Now the dispute has escalated further. The Royal College of Nursing announcing its biggest walkout yet, hitting half of the hospitals, mental health and community services their members work in across England.
It has to be done because our nursing staff are under immense pressure. They're immense pressure looking after their patients. They're under immense pressure trying to pay their bills and just meet the cost of living that they have to do every single day.
The next strike will take place on Wednesday, the 1st of March, starting at 6 a.m. for a full 48 hours. Previous strikes have lasted just 12. For the first time, it will involve nursing staff in emergency departments, intensive care units, cancer care and other services which have been exempt so far.
It's extremely concerning. This is a really significant escalation in terms of strike action. And of course, the scale of this, with 93 trusts involved, the duration, continuous, 48 hours, including overnight, and also the intensity.
The Royal College of Nursing has called for a 19% pay rise, but has also indicated it will cool off action if ministers will discuss an offer of around 7%. So far, they've been offered 4%, as recommended by the Pay Review Board.
I work in critical care.
Charlotte is one of those who supports the strike.
If you collapse outside, we're the ones that come to you. We're the ones that will save you, not your MP. You need to support us because we are tired, we are stressed and we are overworked.
This morning I was in Guy's Hospital getting some cancer treatment. I mean, the service is fantastic if they're allowed to provide it.
It's terrible, like, that we have to do it, that it's come to this. But, like, what other choice do we have?
The government says failure to provide cover for essential services like cancer treatment will risk patient safety. The RCN insists it's committed to offer a bare minimum of life and limb care during strikes, but the most vulnerable will be desperate to see an agreement hammered out in the next 2 weeks. Martin Stew, News at 10.
And Amy is here with the unenviable task of trying to explain what is going to happen next. Good luck with that. I mean, look, it's getting pretty serious. Is the government thinking any differently privately? Is it getting worried privately?
Well, no, government sources are saying exactly the same to me privately as what they are saying publicly, and that is the focus is on bringing down inflation and not increasing public sector pay. Now, that has been the sticking point because the nurses are not happy with the 4.5% pay increase that they were given for this financial year. They believe it should be increased and backdated, but the government insists they will only look at next year's pay. And in fact, the Royal College of Nursing have told me this evening they've not actually had any talks with Steve Barclay, the health minister, now for more than a month. And in fact, they've gone further this evening and said that they are actively considering balloting their members in April. And if they are successful, that means that we will see more strikes in May and in October. So in other words, this could drag on for months. Now, if you take the railway strikes, obviously it's slightly different because there have been talks, there has been a new offer which has been rejected, and now more strikes too have been announced. But this evening, the Department of Transport have told us that actually the result is the same because they will not be making a revised offer. So in other words, the approach has been different. There has been talks. But again, when it comes to nurses and railway workers, strikes.
OK, Amy, thank you very much indeed. Now, no one says it is easy running a high-profile police investigation in the age of social media, as well as the traditional media spotlight. But Lancashire Police have hit yet another hurdle in their search for Nicola Bulley, who went missing almost 3 weeks ago. They have asked to be investigated themselves by the police watchdog over the contact they had with Miss Bulley 2.5 weeks before she went missing.
A desperate plea for answers, but all the questions remain. Now, though, they're focused on the police's contact with Nicola Bulley before she went missing. Lancashire Police visited her home because of concerns about her welfare 17 days before she disappeared. And tonight, the force has referred itself to the Independent Office for Police Conduct about its handling of this visit. There's also criticism about information they shared yesterday regarding Nicola's health.
As soon as she was reported missing, following the information that was provided to the police by her partner Paul, and based on a number of specific vulnerabilities that we were made aware of, Nicola was graded as high risk. That is normal in a missing person from investigation with the information we were in possession of.
Yesterday, the police revealed that Nicola had significant issues with alcohol in the past that had recently resurfaced. But that's something that her family today said they never wanted to be shared publicly, but they were told it had to prevent people from selling stories about her private life. In a statement today, they said, "We as a family believe that the public focus has become distracted from finding Nikki and more about speculation and rumours into her and Paul's private life. The police know the truth," they said, about Nikki, and now the public need to focus on finding her. It's almost 3 weeks now since Nicola was last seen here walking her dog. During that time, the police have shared little information about her. But today, some MPs have criticised Lancashire Police for revealing detail about her health.
I think this is really unusual that they have provided this information, and I think there are questions for Lancashire Police about why they've done this.
Former Chief Superintendent Parm Sandhu, though, says it's not the police handling of information about Nicola that should be questioned, but their communication with the public.
So they have actually done a really good job. It's just the press side of it and the media side of it that seems to have gone a little bit astray, and that's what has let them down.
Along the route she often walked, yellow ribbons of hope which Nicola's family are holding on to. Today her partner said he just wants her home and wants his daughters to be able to cuddle their mother again. Sangeeta Lal, News at 10.
He's already had 4 of them shot down, and tonight President Biden made clear he'd keep on ordering the destruction of any suspicious objects in United States airspace. In his first formal comments on the subject, he said the violation of American sovereignty was unacceptable and he'd be raising the issue with China's President Xi. "I hope we are going to get to the bottom of it," Mr. Biden said.
Fresh from an annual medical and apparently keen to show his fitness, today President Biden also tried to project a strong and muscular policy on the Chinese balloon saga.
If any object presents a threat to the safety and security of the American people, I will take it down.
But he did confirm 3 of the 4 objects recently shot down were in fact nothing to do with China or any surveillance program.
The intelligence community's current assessment is that these 3 objects were most likely balloons tied to private companies, recreation or research institutions studying weather or conducting other scientific research.
Hey, Shah, it's going at it right now.
He'd been fiercely criticised by Republicans for allowing the balloon to drift for so long before it was finally taken out.
Oh, it's hit.
That's my Air Force right there, buddy.
Today he defended that decision, saying they'd learned more about China's capabilities.
Our exports have lifted components of the Chinese balloon's payload off the ocean floor. We're analyzing them as I speak, and what we learn will strengthen our capabilities.
Beijing today insisted the balloon had accidentally drifted into US airspace, lambasting Washington for escalating the situation. But footage has come to light of similar balloons spotted over Japan, showing more details of the payload underneath. It suggests the Chinese spy program has been running for at least 4 years.
The White House are hoping this will draw a line under a difficult couple of weeks for President Biden, in which balloons rather than jobs or the economy have been dominating much news coverage in the United States.
I make no apologies for taking down that balloon. Thank you very much.
But there are still many unanswered questions which President Biden seems unwilling to address. Dan Rivers, News at 10, Washington.
On the subject of China's interference overseas, Britain's long tradition as a sanctuary for those who are persecuted in their own countries is being alarmingly undermined by the reach of the Chinese government. Tonight, we can reveal the lengths to which it is going to watch and intimidate opponents here. It is reaching into the lives of people who have taken refuge from the repression there.
China is flexing its muscles. President Xi has been crushing dissent internally, but also around the world. ITV News has been investigating Chinese interference in the UK. This man is a Uyghur Muslim. He fled here for his own safety, but since arriving has had more than a dozen phone calls from Chinese state security.
Your family and your mother are still here in China. If you work for us, we will look after them. If you refuse, they might go to prison.
They ask him to spy on other Uyghurs in Britain. They prove they are serious with a video call. So what I can see here is a screen grab from a video call. It includes the man that we are talking to, an elderly lady in a headscarf, his mother. Also on the call, but not pictured, is Chinese state security. He is terrified of what might happen if any of his family are imprisoned.
They interrogate and torture, beating people to death, but I can't portray my people just to protect my family. I cannot do that. If she is destined to die, let it be.
The Chinese have also been sanctioning British MPs like Ian Duncan Smith. He's a founder member of the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, IPAC, but someone has been faking emails from him like this one, saying he has resigned.
This is purporting to come from me, and it says, after being sanctioned by the Chinese government and having been barred from entering Hong Kong and China, I believe is now right time for me to resign as co-chair of the Interparliamentary Alliance China. If you couple that with the Chinese embassy's attacks on me and others here, direct attacks on us, you begin to see this is not just a one-off, this is a policy.
Dr. Jo Smith-Finlay has also been sanctioned, in her case for academic work. It means she can no longer visit China.
It's excruciating. I miss my friends so much, and I miss China so much.
She's also alarmed at the influence of the Chinese state amongst British students. At Newcastle University, it emerged during a protest over Hong Kong.
It attracted some nationalist mainland Chinese students on our campus who went down to that event and actually physically and verbally harassed and intimidated the Hong Kong students.
She believes students linked to the Chinese government were responsible. So there is Chinese state surveillance going on within Newcastle University?
For certain. I think within all universities.
The Chinese government says allegations of interference in the UK are smears invented by its political opponents. But there are concerns here about whether enough is being done to counter Chinese interference in the UK. Carl Dinnan, News at 10.
The biggest post-Brexit stumbling block, certainly for the people of Northern Ireland, could be close to being sorted. The Prime Minister is in Belfast tonight, ready to meet political leaders there to discuss a deal with the European Union over the post-Brexit trade arrangement known as the Northern Ireland Protocol. And in your regular reminder of what it's all about, in essence, they couldn't put a trade border between North and South because it might undermine the peace process. So they effectively put it between Northern Ireland and the rest of Britain, which deeply upset those who prize the integrity of the Union, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So what is the answer? Tracy McGee is outside the hotel where the Prime Minister is now. So Tracy, blimey, this has been a long time coming. Does this mean a deal is actually finally close?
Well, it certainly does feel like the negotiations are reaching the end game. The Prime Minister flew into Northern Ireland just after 8 o'clock this evening and travelled to this Belfast hotel. We can't show you pictures of his arrival, however, because he went in the back door. I can tell you, however, that he is due to meet with all the political parties here tomorrow morning, and a key focus will be his meeting with the DUP, the main unionist party, who walked out of government just over a year ago because of their protest on the Northern Ireland Protocol. Not just about the checks on goods travelling between Great Britain and Northern Ireland, but because of what they say is the imposition of EU law here in Northern Ireland, which they say is weakening the Union. Now, there's going to be quite a lot of government activity tomorrow. The Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, is travelling to Brussels to meet with his EU counterpart, Maros Sefcovic. And at the weekend, the Prime Minister will be travelling to Munich for a defence conference, but he's expected to meet with EU leaders on the fringes of that event. Now, all of this would seem to suggest that a deal is imminent. Certainly it has fuelled speculation that it could come as early as next week. But look, at the end of it all, it could be that the DUP will continue to say no.
OK, Tracy, thank you very much indeed. The Scottish National Party hasn't wasted much time in contemplating life after Nicola Sturgeon. But how do you replace such a charismatic leader? Well, tonight the SNP has set out to timetable to elect her replacement. We should know by the end of March. One person who definitely won't be on the ballot paper is the Deputy First Minister, John Swinney. He's not standing. Nor, so far as we know, is Sir Andy Murray, though he did joke that he wouldn't rule it out.
Kept you all waiting too long. Arriving home all smiles, you wouldn't think Nicola Sturgeon had just shocked the nation a mere 24 hours earlier. Her surprise departure is dominating the headlines, but so too is the fact that there is no obvious replacement.
The SNP is full of talent. There are people already in government who are very talented individuals that would bring different leadership styles.
No one has officially stepped forward, but prospective candidates must have at least 100 nominations from party members, and they must be from at least 20 different local branches. Nominations close on the 24th of February, and if there's just one candidate, they win. If there's more than one, a postal vote follows, with the leader announced on the 27th of March. It's a pivotal moment for many SNP members.
With new leadership, we'll become that kind of breath of fresh air. We'll be able to hopefully revive a bit and push forward.
I think as long as somebody has good ideas and is passionate, that's all that matters.
It isn't enough to just keep doing things as they are. We need to convince people because the majority of Scots are not yet persuaded about independence.
But many are seeking drastic change. Inverclyde has some of the highest levels of deprivation and drug-related deaths in Scotland. People here want more from their government.
I'd like to see an improvement in the National Health Service. I'd like to see an improvement for educational attainment. And I'd just like folk to feel that people were listening to them. Whoever's in power is actually listening to what the people are saying.
Do you not feel listened to?
Not at all.
It's hard, currently looking for work, so it's hard to get a job.
Maybe our time's up and somebody fresh could have another look at everything.
Nicola Sturgeon will leave office after 8 years, having won 8 elections and remained high in the polls. But she also leaves with no clear successor, who undoubtedly will enter the job facing major challenges on a number of fronts. Louise Scott, News at 10.
To the Labour leader at Westminster now, not that he was actually there today. Sir Keir Starmer was instead in Ukraine, where he got a statesman's welcome from the master of the art, President Zelensky. Sir Keir said that should he become Prime Minister next year, British support for Ukraine would remain just the same as it is now.
It's now a well-worn path for national leaders, less so for opposition politicians. But polls suggest Sir Keir Starmer could become British Prime Minister long before this war ends. So he believes it's important to see for himself, to speak to Ukrainians like the mayor of Bucha, to be talked through the photographic display of the brutal massacre of civilians here by Russian forces.
Mr. Starmer.
Hello again.
You're welcome.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. How are you?
You said we would come.
Most significantly, perhaps, to spend time face-to-face with President Zelensky.
We went to look at the memorial.
The two men have met before on Zelensky's recent visit to London. For the Ukrainians, maintaining contact with whoever may be in charge in London is a vital part of nurturing and preserving Western unity and support. The message delivered this evening was that there's nothing to fear from another change in British Prime Minister.
We were able to discuss the support that Ukraine needs, the justice that it deserves, and I was able to tell him that should there be a change of government next year when we have a general election, the support for Ukraine will remain the same.
A little less than a year ago, civilians, young and old, were fleeing across the river at Irpin, scrambling past the wreckage of a bridge blown by the Ukrainians to block the Russian advance. Only later would the world learn the real horror of Russian occupation they were escaping. Today, Sir Keir saw the bridge, the rocky path to safety, the work already being done to restore it and its links with the capital Kiev. All around him, the burnt-out apartment blocks, the poignant Banksy artwork, the evidence of what modern, brutal, mechanized warfare can do to a once peaceful, prosperous suburban town. And that's why the Ukrainians are so accommodating of this stream of Western visitors to Kiev. And with the anniversary of the start of the war just a week away, there are a lot of them. Seeing for yourself the nature of the war that Russia unleashed here, talking to the people who lived through and survived Russian occupation, well, there is no substitute. James Mates, News at 10, Kiev.
Well, back here after the rows over Shell and BP's very high profits, it was the turn today of British Gas's parent company to publish theirs. Centrica is a slightly different beast to the other two. For a start, it makes most of its money in the UK. Profits were a mere £3.3 billion last year, 3 times what they were the year before. That includes money from its British Gas business, the money from prepaid meters installed by foot in the door agents who don't take no for an answer. Its boss today, however, wouldn't answer whether he is taking his bonus. The family of the Hollywood great Bruce Willis announced this evening that the brain disorder he was diagnosed with last spring has been confirmed as an uncommon form of dementia that affects behaviour and language. The actor, who is now 67, had already announced he would be stepping away from his career. The statement from his family said his condition had progressed, and while that was painful, it was a relief to have a clear diagnosis. The earthquakes in Turkey, as we've reported for days now, destroyed city after city and have claimed and changed thousands of lives. They've changed landscapes, though, too. A ravine the width of a football pitch has opened up outside the city of Antakya, cracking asunder a landscape rich with olive groves, as John has discovered.
Since the earthquake struck southern Turkey in the early hours of Monday morning last week, most of the focus, obviously, has been on the consequences for human beings. Far less attention has been on the consequences for the earth itself. But here in the farmland outside Antakya, there is a very good example of that. This is the world's newest valley. During that awful night, as they cowered in their homes, the locals knew that something cataclysmic had happened. But imagine their surprise when they first saw this chasm. We went to the bottom of it for the perspective from down there, but actually the best way to illustrate what we're talking about here is from above. The local people said that at the time they thought it was an air raid. The sound of explosions created by cracking rock, the flashes by the sparks that flew as the Earth's crust was torn apart. It used to be a flat field. I would ride my motorbike on it, said this boy. It was all an olive grove which is now bisected by a gorge that in places is the width of a football field. The rift is so deep that a 13-story building could fit in it. This boy said that just after first light that morning, they came out here and found this. They were terrified and started crying. We thought we had witnessed something that's out of this world. Eventually, the cities and towns will be clear of rubble. But this rupture, shaky ground permitting, will endure as a reminder of the power of the quake, the power of 7.8. John Irvine, News at 10, Southern Turkey.
Amazing images. Now, a who's who of British fashion's glitterati remembered one of their own today. It was the memorial service for the First Lady of British design, Dame Vivienne Westwood. Fellow designer Victoria Beckham in dark glasses was there. So too on the left, in the black beret, the model Kate Moss, and on the right, the rapper Stormzy. Not everyone was in black, though. The film star, Helena Bonham Carter, was in Westwood-inspired red tartan, showing it wasn't just about who was there, but also what they were wearing. And finally, what started out as a drawing on Instagram to help children feel brave could end up winning a BAFTA this weekend and an Oscar in a month's time. Charlie Mackessy's book, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse, became a lockdown hit, but the film version is up for the short animation category. The author is trying not to let all the attention go to his head. He told us, "I'm still just Scruffy Charlie with a dog."
So, what are we doing?
We're on a quest for cake.
Well, let's get going then.
These characters and their creator have been on a long journey.
What's the bravest thing you've ever said?
Help.
Charlie Mackesy first posted his illustrations online, then gave them a book and now a film.
This is where the magic happens.
Well, this is where the mess.
Drawing in his studio helped him with his own trauma and anxiety. But the images spoke to so many people, they've earned his film BAFTA and Oscar nominations.
It's been this strange, surreal, and you know, when you're working that hard for that long, as everybody does, whatever they're doing, you can't imagine what's to come after. You're just in it, and all you're in is that right? Is that line right? Can we try that again? Oh, let me draw that. I did the thousands of drawings I did. You know, can we just get the back of his head a little bit more like, you know, you can't imagine anything beyond that.
Everyone is a bit scared, said the horse, but we're less scared together.
I visited Charlie during lockdown when his book and its simple messages of kindness and love in difficult times had become a publishing sensation. Oprah Winfrey chose it for a charity reading.
Tears fall for a reason, and they are your strength, not your weakness. I love that line.
His subsequent drawings online in support of the NHS chimed with the times. For those who've struggled with their mental health, his film is his message.
It's to try to make something that makes people feel a bit better or hopeful. Or
How are you now?
I'm all right. Yeah, I'm good. But, you know, obviously in the glare of cameras and nominations, and which are so extraordinary, and I'm so grateful, but I'm still just Scruffy Charlie with a dog.
Somewhere in this studio are the beginnings of a sequel, but Charlie and his friends have learned to take things one step at a time. Nina Nanar, News at 10 in South London.
And the very best of luck to him. What a nice guy he seems to be. That's it. Sorry for my cold. But the miserable news and the fact that everything apart from the boy, the mole, the fox and the horse seems just a bit rubbish. It will surely get better. Good night. Thanks for watching.